The Mitchell's Front Page podcast is brought to you by Geelong Bank. Listen live on 94.7 The Pulse, Mondays and Tuesdays from 9 till 11.
First of all, we'll start in state politics, and Darren Cheeseman was someone I interviewed yesterday. He's in Parliament today, the state MP for South Barwon. But I spoke to him yesterday, and I began by asking him about the leadership spell with the Federal National Party and just how quickly things can change in politics.
Well, certainly things can move very quickly. Of course, I think we have seen Barnaby Joyce stalking the Deputy Prime Minister now for a number of months. I think there's been some agitation within the Liberal Party, which we've seen a little bit about. Of course, this is a reminder that division is death, and I think this will have a dire consequence on the electability of the National Party in those regional areas.
Now, the vaccine rollout, it seems like the gloves are off between your government and the federal government. Your Deputy Premier, James Merlino, or the Acting Premier, and Martin Foley were out there saying that the vaccine rollout has been a shambles.
Well, absolutely. We have, of course, the capacity to jab the vaccine into the arms of many tens of thousands of Victorians each and every week. The reality, of course, is the Commonwealth Government haven't procured enough vaccine for us to be able to administer it to the pace that the Victorian community would like. Of course, this has a consequence on the number of Victorians that are able to get vaccinated on any one particular week. And of course, that does mean the slower it takes to deploy the vaccine, the more likely it is for the vaccine to get away, to start spreading through the community. And that simply means potentially further lockdowns. We want to avoid the consequences of the vaccine, of the virus spreading through the community. We want to see as many Victorians get vaccinated as quickly as possible. And the Commonwealth has simply let down Victorians by not buying enough vaccine globally to support the deployment of the vaccine through Victoria.
So how do we get on with it and get the vaccine rollout underway? Because I'd imagine voters would be looking at this and saying, we perhaps don't want the arguments between the federal and the states. We want you to work together to get this sorted out.
Well, I think the Prime Minister ought to send his diplomats overseas to of course, the companies that manufacture these vaccines, they ought to buy more readily and more quickly, and simply to ship it back to our country as quickly and as fast as possible. That's what's required. We simply need the Prime Minister to, of course, show leadership, to send his bureaucrats to these companies to buy the vaccine.
Now, talking about lockdowns, when we spoke to you last time, there was that new mystery case that had just appeared and the whole thing was just getting started. And since then, we've gone through 3 weeks of restrictions. What's your message to people listening to this, particularly those down in your electorate on the Surf Coast that maybe were expecting bumper crowds down there for the long weekend, particularly from metropolitan Melbourne that are perhaps struggling through the local economy and businesses?
Well, what I'm saying is that, again, until we can get the vaccine deployed through our community, we are susceptible to this virus spreading. That means that we must keep up our sleeve the capacity to implement some rather harsh measures, such as lockdowns and making sure people are wearing masks and those things, because at the end of the day, it's those things that will keep Victorians safe until such time as we have enough of our community vaccinated. Again, it comes down to the Commonwealth needing to go and buy more vaccines quicker so that we can, of course, administer those vaccines into the arms of every single Victorian so that we can stop the spread of this virus through our community.
Now, I see from Daniel Andrews' social media that he's due to return next Monday. How will that change things, given that James Merlino has been in that acting capacity for a long time?
Look, I think James Merlino, as the Deputy Prime Minister, has done a fantastic job in that job, and I'd like to very much thank him for that. I think every Victorian has followed very closely Daniel Andrews' recovery. I think we're all very keen as a caucus to see him back on his feet and back in the Parliament, and certainly look forward to him being back in that role in the near future. Of course, a broken back is no laughing matter, and we've certainly all wished the Premier well in his journey to recovery. He's given the all clear now and will be back on his feet, back in the Parliament and back out in the community on the 28th of June. I look forward to that. I look forward to seeing him coming on numerous occasions down to Geelong over the next couple of years to, of course, continue to sell the hard work of the government, not only in terms of COVID-19, but all of the major infrastructure announcements that we've made down here. And I want to see him visit those sites and get out and about in our community and throughout Geelong.
And there are rumours from some state political reporters that maybe some in your caucus want to see a leadership change and get a new face in before the next election, but you're saying the whole caucus is very keen to see the Premier return?
Absolutely, everyone's very keen to see the Premier back on his feet, back in the electorate. I very much expect Daniel to be in as the Premier of this state for many, many, many years to come. That's what the caucus want. We're very keen, very united, and very much wanting to see him back out there in the hustings as soon as possible.
The Torquay Community Hospital, talk to us about that. First of all, what's going to be there and when can we expect that to be available, those facilities? I believe it's on South Beach Road.
That's right. So, of course, we made the announcement that we will be building 10 community hospitals across Victoria's growth corridor at the last state election. Of course, we also informed the community one of those would be in Torquay, in our part of the world. Of course, Torquay is a rapidly growing community, and I'm looking forward to seeing a new community hospital that's fit for purpose, offering a suite of medical services to Geelong's growth corridor right through to the Surf Coast. Of course, we have announced that hospital will be located on South Beach Road. We made that announcement last week. I'm looking forward to, of course, that us acquiring the land in the next little while and for us to be able to get on with building that new fit-for-purpose community hospital servicing the Surf Coast and the broader region, and very keen to see that up and running as quickly as we can.
And I see that there's a new Barwon Southwest climate change adaptation strategy out there. Can you talk about what do you think are the key things that the region needs to do in order to adapt to climate change?
Well, look, climate change, of course, is a significant challenge for the global community. And, of course, we need to make sure that we adopt appropriate strategies region by region throughout Victoria. I think we are likely to see a changed climate that is going to have a consequence on our agriculture sector. It's going to have a consequence on how we manage our bushland, on how we manage our national parks, and the things that we're able to do in the region. I think we need to, of course, identify appropriate responses to that, opportunities, particularly in terms of the things we might do to adapt to climate change, whether that be putting in place solar panels on people's roofs, whether that be, of course, changed practice on our farmlands. There's a raft of opportunities that we ought to look at, and I'm sure these regional forums, which we're holding across the state, will provide a snapshot of the things that we can do locally to respond to those significant challenges of climate change.
And last of all, a new Mental Health and Wellbeing Act for Victoria. I believe you're seeking community consultation and input into that. Is that right?
Well, that's right. So, of course, as your listeners would be well aware, the Victorian government instituted a royal commission into our mental health system. That commission of inquiry very much made a raft of recommendations, one of which was that we needed a new Mental Health Act fit for purpose that can, of course, respond to the modern opportunities around the mental health system. And we want to hear firsthand from people suggested changes, things that could go into a new Mental Health Act. We want to hear from those that have in the past suffered mental health illness, and we want to hear from their guardians and their friends, and of course the sector as well.
Well, Darren, thanks for being on the program once again. Always good to catch up. We'll talk to you again next month.
My pleasure. Great to talk to you, Mitchell.
Darren Cheeseman, the State MP for South Barwon, who I spoke to yesterday.
The Mitchell's Front Page podcast is brought to you by Geelong Bank. Listen live on 94.7 The Pulse, Mondays and Tuesdays from 9 till 11. Or search for Mitchell's Front Page on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or wherever you get your podcasts.